Careful. Okay. All right. Here we go. Now we're good. All right, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. This is, are we recording yet? No. Okay.
Yeah, we're recording. It's recording already.
It's just going back through, and in my mind, I'm just like blown away by this entire thing. So
The movie?
Yeah.
See, I want to be blown away. Oh, God damn it. She's like restless right now. Hold on.
Roof, roof.
Stop doing that. Lay down.
No, that was me. That was me.
Right here. Lay down. Nope. Go. Smarty, we go outside? Come on. Let's go. Outside. Everybody go outside. Come on. All right. Take two. You there?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah.
All right. So you want me to kick it off?
Yeah. Just like I said, I won't know all the names of people, but I'm pretty enthused about this film. And if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, just help me come back on point. So.
Yeah, we'll do. Oh, I got to give you one more link because before we start officially, because the Pico Brew is officially turned on tomorrow.
For the release of their information.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm sending you the sponsor documentation from the Rotary Club as well. But that's not a big deal.
There's like a ticking in the background. It's like.
Still hear it now?
No.
Okay. I don't know what that was, but it might come back. Okay, so this last link that I'm sending you are all the assets from the Pico U. So how do you think we should do this? Because I want to talk about both.
Well, I definitely think we should jump right into, do the beer part, get that out of the way. Or we could talk a little bit about, some of the things that are, upcoming movies like Deadpool or something like that. Then talk about Pico Brew. Like, I don't really know if you're against that or not. I mean,
no, I thought about doing that too, like doing it backwards. So we'll just do the beer part. Well, not backwards, but we'll do the beer part real quickly. There's not much to say. I mean, I just sent you the press release and everything. Not a ton that we can really say about it except for some details. They've already released, like TechCrunch did a video on it already. So essentially all I was trying to get out of it is that we could just talk about it because it literally launches tomorrow. And I'll edit this tonight and then have it up. I'll just put it up tonight whenever I finish editing it.
They brew coffee now?
Yeah. So take a minute and just look through that press release. Here's what I'm going to talk about. There's images there of it, but if you look at it, so mine, you saw my actual unit, right? Like the machine itself.
Yeah.
So this is like actually the size of a Keurig. It is like slightly smaller. So it's pretty cool. The thing they're going to have, there's 2 units of it. There's a basic and a deluxe. So the basic, you can literally brew 1 liter beers. So you can brew 1 liter of beer. Which is not much. Or you can actually buy an upgrade and you can brew the 1.3 gallons, which is what the system that I have brews.
Okay.
But on top of that, you can brew like soda with this. You can brew a single pod coffee with this. So I'll go into it, but it's pretty neat. What they did is they made it smaller, more affordable, and easier now than even when I have it. So pretty neat.
Yeah, so you could literally just kind of always use, multi-purposed, if you will.
Right. And so I'll kind of just like I'll lead it off and just like we normally do,
Yeah.
and then I'll just kind of kick it to you for some insight. But
Okay.
yeah, let's see the head over to the.
Well, I will try to have as much insight as possible.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to do like a full hour if you don't want to. We can do whatever you feel like. Really doesn't matter.
2 seconds.
Perfect.
All right. Yep.
All right. So you ready?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna kick this crazy thing off here. So 3, 2, and welcome, craft beer. My name is Donnie. This is a very special episode of the Brewmasters Club cast, Craft Brews and Geek News. I'm joined this evening by one sole member for this episode 67 and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
Essentially, what this is a spoiler-heavy episode for two things. First, again, we are Craft Brews and Geek News. So this is going to be a product launch from a good friend, sponsor of the show, supporter of the show, the Pico Brew Company, as well as a spoiler-heavy review of the Marvel Infinity War movie. I am joined, as I mentioned, by this evening, Mr. Orion Broodboy813. How are you, sir?
I'm doing actually really good, and I'm glad we're on a short week. So I'm looking forward to talking about all the different spoilers we can.
Yeah, short week. So why was this a short week for you?
Well, for the fact that we just did a podcast on Thursday and now we're doing one like 5 days later, I call that a short week.
It is a short week. I like to put something out every week. And again, I want to just hit this again because I feel like anybody out there that's listening to us right now, we were doing for about 40 episodes. We did a weekly, and then now we switched this 2-week format. So I love to put a little bit of content out every week, regardless, just to have people have something to listen to as they're driving into work and things like that. I know I look forward to weekly podcasts, so I hope to continue to put out weekly content. I know that March was absolutely insane for us. May is looking to be insane for us. But we should slow back down and be able to get back to having a crafting couple or releasing the Galaxies misadventure that we had, basically our D&D for Star Wars fans. So we'll get back to the regular swing of things. It's just this is a popular time for both beer, and then movies start swinging up. So it's very busy for us. Not to mention work and all that kind of stuff that we have going on. But
well, and Donnie, isn't this week a big week for beer?
It's a huge week for beer.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God, I need my pin. Well, good thing.
Where's your pin?
My pin. So my pin is on. I'm wearing it right now. It's my independent Seek the Seal pin, Ryan, from the Brewers Association. Did you get yours yet?
You know what? I did, and I'm looking forward to wearing it this weekend at the Temple Terrace Beer Fest. So.
That's good. Yeah. And if anyone is actually in our Facebook group there, I actually posted a picture of my home brew in the fridge with the craft beer seal pin sitting right on top of it. It was pretty nice. There's nothing more independent than brewing beer yourself. So as much as we want to support independent breweries now in the age and era that we are of supporting and growing local business, there's nothing better than starting, just to get that little interest of potentially being still in the beer industry. We are very much independent ourselves. So we support independent craft beer, and we do all we can to do so. So it's great. And again, if you want to find out how you can get your independent craft beer Seek the Seal pin for American Craft Beer Week, which happens to be the 14th through the 20th, so this very week here, please do check out our episode 67, which is the previous one. This is 67.5 technically, so very exciting stuff.
Absolutely.
So, as we mentioned, Ryan, I wanted to get into first off our good friends at Pico Brew. So they're brewing up something very intense, and it's a brand new system. We have been experimenting with the Pico C. I've been experimenting with it. I've brewed a couple beers now on it. You've had a couple. You've had every one that I've brewed.
Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed them too.
And I'm drinking one right now, and I've gotten really good reviews from them. I have a guy at work that I rely on pretty heavily for his input. He's a home brewer. He's done 60 or so batches himself. He's been brewing for over 7.5, 8 years now, and he was really impressed. So much the fact is that he was cursing my name last weekend because as he was drinking my vanilla cocoa stout, he was cursing my name as he was looking on Amazon to buy himself a Pico unit.
Was he really?
For the only, it was funny. His name's Chris. The only reason that Chris was doing this and it was cursing my name is because his wife's like, listen, you cannot, we don't have any more room for brewing equipment. And he's like, au contraire. He goes, this is the size of a Keurig. He's like, this is a small little unit that actually sits on top of your countertop, can blend in with your current cabinetry and your Keurig or whatever. He was literally just going through on Amazon and selecting the one that he thought was the best fit for the investment that was there. He talked about the Zymatic, the Z, the new Pico C. He was just loving it. And he's like, again, it harkens back to that example that you provided of the person that was in a skyscraper and loved beer, brewing beer, but couldn't do it anymore simply because of space. Yeah. So he said the same thing. He's like, my wife is going to kill me if I buy another, 5-gallon system. I was like, well, trust me, I'll send you a couple of videos. This is amazing. I'm like, it doesn't take up any space at all. And you can still brew quality beer and easily with minimal time from him. He's got 2 kids. So I get it, man.
Well, and so he was thoroughly impressed too. Him being a home brewer, having done 60, 70 brews and all that stuff. He was like, I mean, it sounds like he already bought a system. I'm not sure, but
he hasn't bought a system yet, but he was like, damn it.
Yeah.
He's like, damn it, Donnie. I'm sitting here on Amazon at 12:30 at night looking through these Pico brews. My wife's asleep because I want to buy one now. I'm like, he's like, I know what my Christmas present's going to be. I'm like, well, trust me. Well, that's a perfect segue because I was like, trust me, by Christmas, there's going to be a whole new system here, and it's called the Pico U. So their PR team reached out to us last Wednesday, right before the cast, and said, hey, listen, we've got a new unit coming out. We kind of teased it in episode 67, but essentially what it is that there's a press embargo. So they released this information out to podcasts and press media members like us that can then report on it. However, their Kickstarter campaign for this new product, the Pico Brew U, does not start until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. EST. So it's very exciting that they actually rely on us as a partner and share information and media inserts like this, because we love to support independent craft beer. And again, as we just mentioned, how much more independent does it get when you or I are actually brewing it on our counter, on our, in our house. So I love it. So Ryan, I know I sent you the press release, some images, a link to their Dropbox, their media kit. Give me some first takes, and then I'll kind of explain what this is after you briefly provide, your initial thoughts just on looking at this thing.
Yeah, my initial thoughts are, I mean, it's very compact, about the size of what we'll call it Keurig Generation 1 or 2, something like that.
An actual Keurig for once.
An actual Keurig.
Crazy. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, the pictures that I'm looking at is, surrounded by all different types of drinks. It's not just beer, but and I don't know if we want to get into this right away, but there's different settings for different types of drinks. I see coffee, tea, there's a fusion drink, kombucha,
milk-based drinks, yerba, mate, horchata, and dry sodas, as well as craft beer. So
they found a way to like literally give you multi-purpose applications for your Pico Brew system, or Pico U system, I should say. And I think that that's really neat, because now you're not just appealing to the craft beer fan, but the craft coffee fan, the craft soda fan, the craft blended drink fan. I know my wife, every day she uses the Bullet. That thing's like 7 years old. I might actually be able to sway her into getting something like this so that I could also do test brews, and then she could still do her juices. I don't know. But that's my first reaction. I don't know how all this stuff works, but it looks interesting.
It's really what I consider is revolutionary in terms of like bringing brewing of any sort into your house, right? So yes, you can make a single pot of coffee. Imagine a Keurig minus the irrevocable economic and basically a physical damage that those Keurig cups cause because they're non-recyclable. They just sit in a landfill somewhere. This allows you to literally take a little coffee filter with a little scoop of coffee and home brew your own coffee on whatever temperature or bitterness you'd like. You can control these things within the system. That's just one variant of how the Pico U, and the U stands for universal. So it's the universal brewing device. That's what the Pico U is. It's really very cool. If you're a kombucha guy, like we got to talk to Christian over there at Brew, you know, that you can actually brew your kombucha. You can brew kombucha on the Pico C2, but you can't do the milk beverages or the dry sodas or things like that. It's so cool. It's you can't do tea. It's just it's a broader spectrum of beverages, and I just think this is like obviously a sign of the future and where people want to go. On top of that, this campaign kicks off again Wednesday, the 16th at 9 a.m. EST, and this thing will be going on their Kickstarter for $169 USD. So
really,
that's amazing. Straight off the bat with that.
So wait, explain what that means. Yeah. So, and it sounds like you're about to. So $169. This is for a Kickstarter campaign. So these aren't in circulation yet. They're still up and brewing them, if you will. So $169. If I invest into this tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., what do I get?
So basically, you get what's called the Pico U Basic, which is just their standard model. That will allow you to actually brew a 1 liter beer. So you can brew 1 liter of beer. So the same kits and pods and packs that you can actually buy on the Pico Brew website right now, you can actually get a 1 liter version of that, which is about 4 to 6 cups of craft coffee, tea, fusion beverages, or beer, essentially. It's a 1 liter of beer, which is not a ton of beer, but you can do this just on your countertop after you make your coffee, or say when you get home from work, you put the pot in, hit the button, and then boom, you've got beer. Now you've got to age it and do things differently, which I'm not sure what the timelines are on that. And I think they're still kind of working that out. I mean, they have their actual production model, which is what we can see in the pictures here. But I think this is pretty revolutionary. In addition to that, if you wanted to go to the version that I have, so if you want to expand your Pico U to actually support the 1.3 gallon that I have, the Pico C, that capacity, the Kickstarter for that is $189. So that's $189 that actually comes with the ability to brew the 1.3 gallon that I have, which when that thing retails, it's $399. So for $189, that's a hell of a deal.
Hell yeah.
And these will retail at about $249 and $299 once they hit the shelves, which will most likely be in the fall. What they do is they do this campaign for each one of these products, and then they launch it there. You can buy it at Best Buy, at Walmart, at Amazon about 3 to 4 months later. So very exciting stuff, man. But this is really cool. And it's really cool that we are able to partner with them at this stage in their business where they finally released this true countertop brewing device.
Well, I think I'm becoming more and more sold on the idea of the Pico Brew, or in this case, Pico U system. But now seeing the versatility of, the different, it's not just for one thing. It's not just for brewing beer, doing test beers and things of that nature, or if you're trying to clone a recipe and you buy the recipe, yada, yada, yada. But it's multi-purposed, which for me, if you break that down, I mean, I'm brewing espresso every morning. I got an espresso kettle that we use over and over again. And like I said, Ashley, she does her healthy drinks and things of that nature. So, I mean, we have all these different devices, juicers, stuff like that. This is kind of really condensed into one thing to be able to be multi-purposed and use them for everyday life, while also, hey, it's a Saturday, you got time to spare, put your grains in, put your hops in, put your different extracts in or whatever, and brew a beer whilst you're watching Netflix for 3 hours and doing nothing anyway. That's kind of cool. That's very cool.
I totally agree. When they released the functionality of where you can actually physically go to the grain, go to the homebrew store, buy your own ingredients, and then fill your pack. When that threshold is broken, and I don't know how that will be. All they have to do, it's real simple, right? Like maybe it's a $50 reusable pod that you can do that with. If I don't care if it's $100 that I can literally mix and match and create my own recipe via the app or whatever it is. When they get to that point, this machine will not only be impressive, which it already it already is. The Pico C was impressive. The whole Pico line is impressive. The Pico U now with all these kind of craft beverages is very impressive. But when they get to that point, which is inevitable that they will, it will literally be something that not only we can stand behind now as we are, but something that I will fall on the sword for, because if they can get to that point where you as a small home brewer want to brew a 1.3 gallon batch and just experiment, when we get there, this is unstoppable, man. Like that's the future of home brewing. I mean, that kind of system.
Well, and if to carry that, I don't know if I said this on the last podcast or if I was thinking about it after the fact, but if they had a way to develop, like what you were just saying, like you could go to the store and get your own grains and things. If they had a way to, as a member of the Pico family or something like that, where you could log in almost like a beersmith, where you can plug in different recipes and it'll tell you, okay, if you're using this grain for this amount of water, if they had a way to also branch that in and made it like a unique community of people that could play with different grain measurements or different recipes, that would add to that benefit in some degree, because then you know that whatever recipes you're going to go buy at the grain store are going to turn out good as long as you follow the instructions of actually using the system. You're not just, you can still do your test beers and do your own things, but what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that's actually already baked in. That you can do that right now. Like you or I can go to the website and say, I want to use 3 ounces of hops. No, I want to use 5 ounces of hops. I want to use 2 ounces of Cascade and 2 ounces of this. I want to use 9 ounces of this grain, 9 ounces of that grain. You can combine them into a recipe and they'll send that to you. The kicker is this RFID tag. So like every pack comes with an RFID tag. So it already tells the machine how to brew it. At what stage do you boil it? What stage do you kick it? What stage do you mash? What stage, what heat, what temperature, how long? That's already in there. So I can go, that's why I'm saying the John Henry experience is like when we do the man versus machine, I can say, Ryan, I shipping to my house in 36 hours is this much amount of this grain, this much amount of that grain, these hops, these 3 stages, these ounces here, that ounce there, and then I can actually make that package. You could print that recipe out, take it to your homebrew store, and you can get the same grain bill for your 5, 10, 15 gallon system, expedited to or elaborated to fit the whatever size you're doing. But I can get you a grain bill from what this has here, and we can customize it ourselves. Next time you're here. Beautiful. Yeah, you can pop on to picobrew.com, or I can actually show you the next time we're hanging out that the grain bill decider, because you can brew your own custom pack. Now you're relatively limited as to what you can add. You can add a dry hopping section. You can add any amount of hops you want to the main boil. You can add 2 different strands or 2 different types of grains in any combination you want to. But it is relatively limited. So that's alluding to the point. The next iteration of that has to be, hey, here's a reusable pack, and it's slightly more expensive than one that's prepackaged, but you can reuse it and build your own grains.
I agree.
That's the only gap I think they have, and maybe it's a financial thing. If they do that, then you don't technically have to buy their packs anymore, and there's complications and a revenue model that follows that. But I think when they get to that point, it's fantastic. And in the meantime, for our John Henry experiment, we can build a beer together, and then you can replicate it on your end. I can replicate the same beer on my end, and we can brew it together and age it together and see what happens and see whose beer is better and see how it comes out. I think there's a lot of value to that.
And I think that should come mid-June, as we've alluded to before, after I prep for the brewing competition. I think mid-June, early July, that's a great time frame to brew some beer and to have a little brew off, if you will. So
dude, I'm so down. June it is then you guys have heard it first. We are doing a brew off with the Pico C versus John Henry himself, Mr. Broodboy 813. We're going to find out if man can beat the machine.
I hope I can live up to the competition. This thing seems pretty quick and good. So
I just love it. You know me, man. I love technology. This is the Craft Brews and Geek News podcast. Like I just really froth over this stuff. So I'm very excited. But again, picobrew.com, check it out. Tomorrow it will be available on their Kickstarter. Again, if you want to get in, they literally, their PR rep sent me an email tonight that said, hey, here's the link if you want to share it out. I clicked it. It's not active. So literally Google Pico Brew U tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., and you will find some information out about this product. Super cool.
So talking about frothing at the mouth, Donnie, are we going to talk about any of the beers that we're drinking this evening? Are we sharing any of that like our usual, or You're
We
empty.
we absolutely can. I actually have another beer I can go grab, but what I just finished, thank you, Ryan. Yes, this is Craft Beers and Geek News. So we do talk about beers that we're drinking. What are we gonna drink? It's a famous segment. We are flying off the script here because of the nature of this episode. This is like an interim episode. So, I mean, a regular scheduling programming comes back next Thursday. However, this we had too much going on. We had the Pico Brew announcement that's coming out tomorrow, so we actually got a tip on that ahead of time, which is great. And then we have the Avengers Infinity War spoilers that we want to talk about as well. It's been out for 2 weeks now. If you haven't seen it, please make sure that you are in about 3 minutes here. We'll time code it, but in about 3 minutes, we're going to be done talking about the beers we're drinking, and we want you to be aware. We are going to talk spoilers about the Avengers Infinity War. So please, if you haven't seen it yet, just turn it off. And like I said, about 3 minutes here. But Ryan, since I just finished well, not my last one, but another delicious pint of my Stargazer IPA, the 5-hopped beer that I had, again, brewed from the Pico system. And I believe you and Gus, man, tried it, on Saturday?
Yes, and he thoroughly approved it. So he was like, this is actually, he did one of those like double takes in the glass, when you think something's really good, you're like, oh, that's actually really, he did one of those. So
was there, I mean, so because that was something that that was the first one that I force carbed out of the Pico brews. So the carbonation was there. Was the flavor there? I mean, was the aroma there? Give me some hard, really criticism. It's okay if it's not good. It doesn't have to all be good. I just want to know.
No, the only thing he did say is that for an IPA, it was a little low on the IBUs. That was the only thing he said. But the flavor was there. So you got the hop profile flavors, you got the malt profile flavors, and they blended really nicely together. But he said for an IPA, it could have been a little hoppier. So that was about the only thing.
Yeah, understandable. And that's fine. And again, this was the first time I've brewed that IPA, and I did it. Again, with the dry hopping was interesting. So what I did is I transferred to secondary before I cold crashed. So maybe there was some flavor. Oh, there shouldn't have been flavor loss there, but it was. I mean, it was simple. It was a simple beer to make. I agree, and I think I can pull up the recipe now. The IBUs were not high. Like for an IPA, they were substantially lower than I thought they were going to be. So maybe that had something to do with it as well. But what are you drinking?
So I've got the actually, it's funny, we talk about Gus. He's such a kind-hearted man, and he always shares beer and things like that because he wants to get people's feedback just as much as he wants to put things into different stores and things with what he does. But he gave me a couple of cans, and one of these that he gave me was the Loose Cannon Hop. They call it Hop Cubed, if you will, Hop 3 IPA because it's 3 different hops added during the brewing process. And hold on 1 second, little one. What are you doing?
You handle it. I got to get another beer. So,
do you want to say hi to Donnie?
I got to get another beer.
Okay. What are you doing? I'm podcasting.
Oh.
Donnie went to get another beer. Go see mommy.
Daddy, my mommy said I can't go.
That's because she's doing this stuff. Go watch your show.
Okay.
Go watch your show. And hey, you can cuddle with me in a little bit. I'm doing my show. Okay. Does that sound okay? You can cuddle with me in a little bit. Love you. What? Love you. Okay. Well, for all those that heard that out there, I love my little one. She's 4.
Come on, girl. Come on. Emma. Should you go back upstairs?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's good.
Where was I? What was I saying?
You were saying that he gave you the 4-hopped.
That was funny.
4-hopped.
3-hopped.
3-hopped.
Cubed. Yeah, 3 cubed. But it's really good. I think it's from Heavy Seas Brewery. And they kind of do like this whole pirate theme with the skull and crossbones, which is kind of cool. On the side of the can, it says our loose cannon hopped 3 IPA is opulently, which I believe is a hop term, if I'm not mistaken. Hop 3 times in the brewing process, aromatic with floral notes. It's an amazing balanced American IPA. When I'm drinking this, I am reminded of Motorworks IPA. If anybody out there has had that, it's got that sort of same flavor profile. It could almost, I mean, side by side, it could almost be the same beer. However, this one does finish more florally, and as you put it to your mouth to drink it, you can definitely have or smell the hop aromas, which helps with the flavor profile. To break it down, there's nothing wrong with the beer, but there is a specific hop that they're using that I'm not a fan of per se, but only because of the way that it finishes. Other than that, it's very delectable. It scores a 4 out of 5 on Beer Advocate, which is really good. It's a very good beer. I would definitely buy it again. It's something I got to get used to the whatever hop they're using. It might be Amarillo. I'm not exactly sure. It's not like it's overly hoppy or anything. It's just the way that the hop specifically finishes, and which is very much like a Motorworks IPA, which I enjoy. So it's kind of one of the same. 7.25%. I would definitely recommend it to anybody, and I'm enjoying it. It's very clear, very crisp, and very enjoyable. So.
No, it sounds really good. I actually like the crisp, clear, or not crisp, clear, but the crisp kind of IPAs too. The one I brewed compared to our IPA that you and I brewed that one was very citrusy. It was the last one was with the zombie lipstick on a pig, the lipstick on a zombie pig. Excuse me. Was very. I thought it was more citrusy than anything else. The IPA, the Stargazer, the 5 hopped IPA that I shared with you and Gus is not as citrusy. But the IBUs that I had on that were 80. There were 80 IBUs in that beer. Now, if that came out in the flavor, I'm not sure. But I've also had beers that were way hoppier in terms of IBUs, but yet didn't taste the same, didn't have that same, overbearing flavor. So, and who knows? And it was the first time I brewed it, so there's always room for improvement. But yeah, man, I love a good IPA. Although I really want to brew a Belgian next. That Belgian, like really what I want to do.
So
for real.
you wanna do a Belgium like the blue milk that I brewed for Star Wars?
Yeah, I really like that Belgium, and that's what I want, like that, because I like a good IPA, but I'm so into that, like that bready kind of like flavor that comes out of a good Belgian, like where it's not exactly, it's like banana bread almost that comes out of that flavor. It's so good.
So maybe you can attest to this a little bit, but in a way, a Belgium, even though it's higher in alcohol content, it's not as heavy as, say, a stout, porter, or IPA. And because it's lighter in that body and in that finish, but still alcohol content high oriented, it's almost like drinking a really high alcoholic regular Miller Lite Pilsner or something like that. Even though it's a Belgium, I'm not putting the two in the same category, but it feels like you can drink more of them because they're lighter bodied. Whereas you drink a porter or stout or something like that, they're heavy bodied. Like this IPA feels really, really heavy right now, as I'm drinking it. Whereas when I drink a Belgium, I don't feel that way. So we should definitely brew a Belgium, and I'd like to see one brewed on the Pico U or Pico Brew system as well, because I'm a huge fan of Belgiums because of that fact, because of that reason that you were just talking about too, that nice light banana, flavor, all that good stuff. So
yeah, no, I love it. So okay, good. Well, I grabbed another beer, and there's not much left of this one, but this is the actual vanilla cocoa porter that I had, and
was that it?
I'm still loving it. No, there's still more.
Okay, you're just drinking it slowly. Okay. I gotta ask you.
So good.
You've brewed, the 1 gallon beers, but have you noticed how quickly they go?
Well, they have, but I've been sharing them like crazy. I share it with you. I've shared it with a neighbor. I've shared it with a guy at work each time. So there's 36 ounces that are gone immediately out of a 1.3 gallon, and that's not a lot. But I have not run out of anything yet.
Fair enough. Okay, so
even our
paced it
lipstick on a zombie
accordingly.
pig.
All right. You still have some.
Yeah, I have one. Remember, I told you I had
That's
one.
right. You told me you had one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have one bomber of that left, but that's all I got. All right.
That's for a special occasion.
That's right.
Like right now when we talk about spoilers.
Well, spoiler alert, I'm not drinking that tonight. But is there any other beer news you want to talk about before we move on to the geek news section, which is primarily this evening, Infinity War spoilers. Spoiler alert again. If you have not seen the movie, please turn this off at this point. I told you 3 minutes ago it would be now roughly 3 minutes, hopefully. If you have not seen the movie, Avengers 3, is it 3? Yeah, 3, Infinity War. Now is the time to stop. Come back to this after you've seen the movie. We are going to talk spoilers from here on out. Ryan, kick us off.
This is where you play the like the whole siren music in the background as we're on the podcast. Okay,
that's the Claxton.
Yeah, exactly. So, what am I kicking off, Donnie? Where are we going? What direction do you want to start? You want to start
everyone on Earth dies, and everywhere else.
We'll just spit it out. Half of everybody dies, and nobody that played in our death pool won because.
Whoa! Hold on. We're gonna go through the death pool. Somebody won. Somebody won the death pool, and that is primarily what I want to talk about. So again,
I said too many spoilers at once.
That's okay. It's quite all right. Part of the Infinity War spoiler heavy episode we are doing tonight will be the reveal of our Avengers Infinity War death pool. So thank you to all the friends, all the family, all the Facebook group members that answered this, that spent the time and contributed their responses. To name a few, we had let's see, Brian, Chet, Frank, Dane, Ryan, Mr. Lossman, of course, myself. I mean, there was a lot of people that actually contributed answers here, and most of them were actually members of the Facebook group. So thank you. And if you are not a member of the Facebook group, please join the Facebook group. It is a lot of fun, and we talk about a lot of cool stuff. So I'm not going to go through them all, but I'll briefly just touch on the rules real quick here, and then we'll get into our responses. So to reiterate, a death pool, if you're not familiar with what that is that participants in the death pool actually bet on the future deaths of people or characters in a movie or a franchise like this. In this pool, we're weighing in on the upcoming film or past film of Avengers Infinity War. So the idea was to place bets and win your prizes. Basically, we gave you 5 choices. So you could bet them in this way. You could say, I know it's going to be X character, B character, Y character, Z character. You can name your 5 like that if you wanted to. Or you could say, I think A character is going to be killed by C character. And if you name them both, there was death streak multipliers. There was predictions of deaths and resurrections. There was death with a cause, which gave you an extra 5 bonus points. There was a correction point if a death named character that was not on the list was actually on your submission. That was 10 points, which if that's where people could actually win some points back, because as we just mentioned at the beginning of the spoilers thing, half of the people died in this movie. So this is not future tense. This is not past tense. This is literally during the movie. Who do we see fade off the screen, whether it be by sand or be by the hands of their godlike father? It doesn't really matter who it was. We just want to know what your thoughts are. We have a lot of entries. So I've actually got like a graph, a physical graph I can look at here. And Ryan, you can't see this because I can't share my screen, but 87.5% of the entrants were part of the Facebook group, Craft Brews and Geek News. So again, I want to say thank you to those who were in the group. And for the 12.5% of you who were not in the group, please go to Facebook, join the group.
Well said, Donnie.
So pick one. Pick one had a substantial leader, and every single person that picked this one won. this point. They first pick with the highest rating of 25%. So 25% of people that entered this contest actually guessed Loki would pass away. And guess what? Within 5 minutes?
Easily.
It was a very epic entry. Like the way that this movie opened, phenomenal. First off, I am a big fan of the movie. I loved it. I think it's one of my favorite Marvel movies out of the 19 they have. And I think, Ryan, you kind of echo that.
Sorry, Donnie, that cut out. What?
I said, I think that this is probably one of my most favorite Marvel movies out there. And I think you echo that.
Yeah, absolutely. It made it to my top 8 list. I don't know what falls between 1 and 8, but it's there.
Well, I loved it. And everybody else that watched this movie and contributed to the contest here actually voiced the same opinion. They said that Loki was going to die. And so 25% of people that actually contributed said that. Other choices were Clint, Hawkeye, who never showed up, Pepper Potts, who was there in the very beginning talking about their baby. I don't know his name. Let's see. Steve Rogers didn't die, but I think that was my vote, honestly, for pick 1. Thor, and then Vision. So there was some factuality there, but they were not killed first.
Right.
So the second pick that the highest grossing number of people guessed, again, 25%, was Captain America. Captain America did not die.
Nope.
No, he did not. He did not die, which is interesting. The Grand Master made it in there, which was actually about 25% of the vote, a little less than 25% of the vote was the Grand Master, which is nuts.
Oh, I was gonna say his buddy might have died, but
yeah, Bucky did fade away, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. But
so pick 3 again by a substantial number of votes was Nebula, which again took another 25%. So it seems there's a couple people in here that are really figuring this out, or somebody's just getting lucky. But the pick 3, the third pick here was Nebula, which did not die.
But she kind of almost could have died.
She could have died, but she didn't.
She was sliced into a couple different pieces, as you know, and stretched
sliced. Out. She was
separated.
She was separated.
However you want to pitch that.
It's not sliced cheese; it's separated cheese. Okay?
I mean, she was on the thick setting at Publix. Okay, like.
Yes. Well, I was thinking Publix too. I was like, thin but not sliced. Thank you. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. All right. That's about all the description I can share with that. But I mean, she didn't quite die. She did come back together and pull herself together. And not to project too much into, because we're not there yet, but I think she has a major part to play in Avengers 4. But we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
No, I totally agree. So the funny thing with pick number 3 is that we did get some interesting responses on this. A lot of people actually said Iron Man was going to die in the third slot here. So what this was, if you're thinking about it logically as you're answering this, like, okay, who's going to die first? Who's going to die second? Who's going to die third? Everybody nailed the Loki was going to die first. That's impressive. The secondary character that was going to die that people thought was Captain America. In reality, who is the second major character to die? Gamora?
I do believe you are correct, because
I think it was Gamora.
Up until that part. Up until that point, I don't think anybody else had actually been killed.
So we'll go through this a little bit more. We'll go through this a little bit more independently based off the timeline of the movie.
Well, real quick, I owe everybody out there an apology. I did not pick in order of who I thought would die. I just picked the 5 random people that I thought would die. So my number 3 is way out there and out of context. So
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that wasn't explicitly said in the rules. I'm trying to think through the logic of what people are doing, and that's how I picked mine. But it doesn't matter.
Who would die in order? Okay.
Yeah, the rules don't state that you have to pick who died in order. It's just simply who dies, right? That's what it was. In my head, I was like, okay, there's going to be a shocking one, then a middle one, then a clincher. I had no idea what the actual movie kind of laid out like, but we'll get into that again more chronologically in a second. So the other choices for pick 3 here were Iron Man, Steve Rogers, of course. I'm guessing your response was Supergiant.
I picked Thanos. I figured, well, I'm gonna play the.
Somebody picked Supergiant, and then there's Thanos. I get that.
Yeah, I picked Thanos. Looks like, can I say his name? Pick Thanos.
Who was it?
Supergiant. It was Mr. Fulton himself.
Oh, Chet. Okay, so Chet picked Chet picked Supergiant. I saw there's only one response for Supergiant, and there's only one response for Thanos, and that's you, my friend.
Yep, I picked Thanos.
But
I
Vision
thought he
was
good.
on there. Of course. I mean, Vision was in each one of these choices because he obviously was going to, get killed.
He kind of dies.
Yeah, he definitely dies. I mean, he's gone. Like for all conversation, he's gone.
No. Well,
he's dead.
Possibly could come back as something.
Oh, he
else.
could. They could all come back potentially, but
no, but he wouldn't be himself. He would not be himself as we know him as Vision, but he might come back all, white and
in gray and stuff. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I mentioned that for extra bonus points. My pick 3 was Vision was killed by Thanos, removal of the gem in the head. That was my pick 3. Brian F, his pick 2 was Vision, but he's resurrected later in the film. So he was halfway right. So he gets a half point for that.
But Donnie, you were right on the head.
Which means I got an extra 5 bonus points, but I also made the quiz, so that doesn't really count for anything at all.
It does, because you wouldn't have known that had happened.
So here's the deal. As we get through, so then our number 4 pick had no consistent winner. We had Wong, which was who I said Wong was killed, which he was not. We had Ebony Wah, which was killed. Ebony Wah was killed. Chet guessed that, which he got correct. We had Mantis, who was killed, which technically Mantis was killed. Corvus Glaive, who was killed. Nebula, not killed. Hulk, not killed. Stan Lee, not killed.
Before you go on to Stan Lee here for a second, I'd like to say this, and I think the listeners out there could agree. The Hulk did die. He died inside. After being ass whipped. No. After being ass whipped by Thanos in the beginning of the film. I'm just saying he died inside. He wouldn't come out for the rest of the film. Okay.
But again, terribly out of chronological order, which we're gonna get back into the chronological order here. But
fine.
He in the Hulkbuster suit, there was half Bruce, half Hulk. Meaning that the Hulk was not dead. But that was also very iconic because the Hulk TV show always showed half Bruce, half Hulk, which is a throwback, an Easter egg, if you will. So there's interesting stuff here. I'm gonna crunch the numbers here and actually get us a definitive winner. And if you contribute to the contest, please go to Facebook, type in Craft Brews and Geek News. You will find our podcast there, and I will announce the official first, second, and third place winner based off these selections here. But I really do think we have a good selection of winners here because things happen, like half of everyone getting killed. But there were several selections in here. So the pick 5, Scarlet Witch, did eventually get killed. James Rhodey, I think he did get killed, didn't he? Or is he still standing? I'm pretty sure in the jungle.
I'm trying to remember all the different people that disappeared or died. I don't think Rhodey was killed. Rhodey did dissipate.
Because what I remember is there was the only original 6 that stayed. It was like Thor, Iron Man.
So Scarlet Witch is dead? I can't. I'm trying to remember. Oh, fuck. That's right.
Yeah, she died too.
She did disappear. Damn.
Yep. Yeah,
I was right on that. Woohoo!
I'm missing 3. Hulk is still alive.
Yeah, if you want to call him that.
I think ScarJo is still alive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's way still alive.
And then there's one more, Captain America. It was those 6 that stayed alive, plus a couple auxiliary characters. So, very interesting. Very interesting stuff. But I'm going to compute all the answers here and get them right because I took very good notes on the movie here. So I have it ready to go. I will add all this up and make sure we actually announce the winner. But if you want to know the answer here to who actually won the contest without any spoilers, I'm going to put it on the Facebook page. So stay tuned there for that. Again, Craft Brews Geek News on Facebook. But before we end the spoilers discussion, we have to simply get into it. Am I right, my man?
Mm-hmm.
So I shared a link with Ryan that we were just talking about the spoilers, the Easter eggs, things like that. These are for the most part in chronological order. I also just like this list because it's kind of prioritized in terms of the most epic things and some of the really cool callbacks that actually happened. So Ryan, we can just go through this one by one. There's 50 on this list, 50 plus on this list.
Sure.
What I want to do is just kind of blow through a couple of these for 15 minutes or so just to wrap up this segment and then talk about this. And for the most part, like I said, they're in chronological order. So I don't know if you want to pick one starting from 1 to 50. If you want to pick one that you think is substantial, let's talk about it. I'll pick one, and we'll just keep going in sequential order. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, let's start off at 1 and then see where we go. I think that's a good idea.
You want to start us off?
Sure. The Thanos is coming one where they throw the Hulk down from the wherever he was with Thor and Loki and everything.
I'll start this. So
yeah.
The movie opens, and of course, this is a direct transition from Thor Ragnarok. And I think, was it you, Ryan, that was like, hey, which movies do I need to watch as a refresher? And I was like, well, you've got to watch first Iron Man. I think that's just the best one you have to watch. And then I also said you have to watch the first Avengers because that brings everybody together. And then I said you can watch Ultron because that brings in Scarlet Witch and some people or some characters of that one. But really, the one I said you need to watch, Civil War, is helpful, but it's not crucial in my opinion. But the Thor Ragnarok was what I think is relatively crucial to the story because it literally leads up to where we are now.
Yeah, it's where they started the movie off. And
it shows Thor with one eye, and it's a bunch of plot points in there that you kind of need to see. So the movie opens up as the Asgardian folks are sitting in their spaceship, and Thanos has basically destroyed the whole ship and slaughtered what looks like almost everybody. So there's a very beaten down Thor and a Loki that kind of appears, who doesn't seem to be that beat up, but you can obviously see Thanos' henchman. And then there's a line that they basically say, which would harken back again, which is why the first Avengers is so important, because there's a scene in the first Avengers where Iron Man and Loki are sitting in the old Avengers Tower, and they're saying, he's like, well, I have an army of people that are, of aliens that are coming to destroy this planet. And he goes, Tony Stark says, well, we have a Hulk. And then the Hulk goes out and does an epic scene where he smashes him like a rag doll, which is hilarious. So this is now a scene of where Loki, and again, you have to watch Ragnarok to get to this point, but Loki then says to Thanos, he's like, well, I've got the ultimate power. And he says, well, we have a Hulk. And so, Ryan, to your point earlier, this is where the Hulk comes out of the corner and goes into fisticuffs with Thanos, which is why it's so epic, because Thanos, having even at this point, I believe, which we saw in the post-trailer credits and whatnot, he has 2 of the gems at this point. So he's an extremely powerful being. He can manipulate portals and a little bit of space and power and whatnot. But he actually is able to go fist to fist with the Hulk and do some damage, beat him down pretty hard.
So much so that as the rest of the movie plays out, the Hulk is almost pretty much afraid to come out, which is why I was trying to get a point or two for my death pool, but it doesn't work that way. So, but
the funny thing about that too is that, again, why Ragnarok is so important is that you learn in that story that he's been the Hulk for maybe 2 to 5 years. He's been in the Hulk for that long. So the way the Hulk works is that when Bruce turns into the Hulk in the original couple movies, he's like this just rage-filled animal. But he's been the Hulk for so long that he's progressed and actually learned. And so they say that he has the intelligence of like a toddler by the end of Ragnarok because he's been the Hulk for so long.
Oh.
So this is now a 2, 5, whatever. Imagine a 5-year-old on a exponential scale where a 5-year-old may actually act like a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old, right? But they're still moody and they're still scared and they're still embarrassed when things don't go right. So like, to your point, throughout the whole movie, after this first 5 minutes that the screen has been on for the Infinity War movie, the Hulk just got his ass kicked. So now he's literally like, I'm embarrassed and I don't want to go out there and fight anybody. And that sets the tone for the Hulk for the entire rest of the movie, which is why Bruce gets to get a little bit of light in the spotlight there, because he's like, well, I can be in this movie as this character without the Hulk. And that brings a lot of power to this movie specifically, because you see the Hulk without the Hulk. It's kind of crazy.
Now, can I just say one thing? Did you get my photo the other day? When I texted you, I was like, "Hey, what's wrong with this picture?"
Yeah, the Green Man was gone.
He was in that picture.
Right, but that was a doctored image for the trailers. They never had that scene in the movie.
I guess they reshot it for the whole sake of the Hulk not coming out.
Right.
And that's why you see him in the Iron Man suit, so to speak. I forget what that is, Ultimate Hulk or something like that. What is that?
It's the Hulk Buster. It's
The
the
Hulk
Hulk
Buster.
suit.
Thank you. And not in the trailer where everybody's kind of running down and the Hulk's behind him. It's actually, Bruce in the Hulk Buster. So I don't know. I don't know how much that was actually an error or if that was like, oh, we fucked up kind of thing. But
no, not at all. That's all designed intentionally. If you look at all of the if you look at all the promotional material too, when you look at Thor, he has 2 eyes, but in Ragnarok he has 1 eye. But all the promotional material for Ragnarok, he has 2 eyes. Even the trailer that had lightning shooting out both of his eyes, when in reality, at that point in the movie, he had lost his eye 20 minutes before. So they do that all the time. They do it for Star Wars too. They do trailer stuff that's specifically for the trailer to allude to a predicament without showing the details of what led them there. That's simply Disney being at its finest. But that's one thing they did out of that. But they did that about 100 times for this movie, and it's great. It's fine. And if you look at the Venom trailers, there was a teaser for the new Venom movie.
Oh, I cannot wait for that.
But there was a teaser that showed him driving a motorcycle, and then almost telepathically, cop cars move out of the way. You look at the new trailer, and in that same scene, there's tendrils coming out of his back that move the cop cars away. So like they do that stuff all the time just to mislead you so that you don't know plot points that you're not supposed to know ahead of time
before you go into the movie. Well, then I stand corrected.
It wasn't an accident. I'm telling you, that's extremely intentional. So
okay, fair enough.
So there's that.
Good to know.
So moving on, and again, we're going to go in relatively chronological order. But the next thing that I had on this list here, and then if you want to look at a couple of these too, jump in by all means. But the Spidey sense on Peter Parker. So the next scene, basically, besides Hulk landing on Earth, like you said, they Heimdall, I forget his name, but it's Idris Elba summons the Bifrost, which is the second time he's done that. So there, without the Bifrost actually being functioned, he's had to summon Dark Evil to call that, and he's done that for the second time. The first time was in the second Thor movie. He actually summoned the Bifrost to call Thor back again, and this time he summoned the Bifrost using dark magic and threw the Hulk from the ship to Earth, to Doctor Strange's lair, to get him to actually realize there's a big problem and send him as a messenger. So that's slightly different from the comic book turnout how it actually functioned. But the first time, which was really cool, that we saw the Spidey sense in the MCU, the new MCU, was actually in the following scene after Doctor Strange, when Peter Parker was sleeping or had his head down on a bus, and all of a sudden the arm hairs raised, and then you saw the big Q ship that Ebony Maw was piloting and coming down to Earth on. So that's pretty cool.
I was actually enjoying listening to you just there.
Oh, it's okay. I can cut all this out too. So,
no, I mean, okay. So no, we were still at the part where Hulk comes down, and then we moved on to Spidey sense. Got it. I was just trying to. Okay. So. And
I'm just kind of skimming through. I'll just take this if you want. I'll just hit on these points as I see them kind of relevant.
Well, no, because if we go back here to, are we to the point where Spider-Man gets his armored suit? I mean, that's kind of a big poignant thing, because Iron Man calls A-17, and that's a throwback to one of the comic books.
Hold that, because
okay.
I'm gonna try and keep it. I'm gonna try and keep it to. So I'm gonna jump. Yeah, let me leave this and just jump in when you find it relevant. Just try to follow me. It's gonna be hard.
Okay.
But just try to follow. All right, so yeah, the Spidey sense was awesome. And so Spider-Man immediately hops out of the bus. I'm trying to go through it too chronologically. So Spider-Man hops out of the bus, and then all of a sudden he's off, changing into his costume, and he's heading to the Q ship. So
he's getting ready.
So as he gets there, of course, New York City, there's a wind gust and whatnot. And so the guys, basically it's Iron Man, it's Wong, and it's Doctor Strange and the Hulk, which is currently Bruce Banner, are leaving the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is, I said that incorrectly, but it's Doctor Strange's kind of his palace there, his place that he hangs out. So they then step outside, figure out what's going on, and then sure enough, Ebony Maw and the other big guy, I forget the big guy's name, I think it's Corvus Glaive. I think that's what his actual name is, but he steps out, and they're about to have this battle in New York City. So of course, Tony Stark steps out and calls him some pretty funky names. It was really funny, actually. What he was calling him was, I forget the specific callback, but there was some old callbacks, some really slanderous kind of terms that he was throwing out there. But at that time, they almost go into battle, and then all of a sudden, Spider-Man kind of shows up there, and he's just kind of in this fray with them. So I actually really like that part because Spider-Man and Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Wong at this point are kind of all there protecting Bruce Banner, because Bruce is not able to transform into the Hulk because of that childlike mentality that the Hulk has at this point, where he's embarrassed to come out and try and fight. Which again, which is just funny. It's just interesting because he is so embarrassed, and it's like a child, that has a mentality of not wanting to go out there because he got his ass kicked, literally.
Pretty much. He was swung back and forth a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple of the callbacks in that scene, and they're kind of, you see, Spider-Man kind of webbing, Bruce Banner and throwing him around, trying to keep him out of harm's way, because Corvus Glaive is like throwing this massive axe that's tied to a chain, and that's all kind of cool, and I just think it's a really neat fight scene. But eventually, they kind of get to a point of where they separate ways, and they're chasing the Ebony Maw down this down the streets and whatnot. So fast forward, and again, jump in, Ryan, if you have any points on this, but fast forward to the next scene, which I believe is where the Guardians pick up Thor, right? So they're flying through space.
Yes. Yeah. They and Thor is like literally, Princess Leia in the middle of space without a space station to fly back into with the Force, but like he just whams right into the shield.
Well, yeah, right, because it's a little more graceful than that. Because not graceful, but a little less graceful. But they basically get a distress call, and
that's
so you see the Guardians saying, "Hey, we're going to go rescue these guys because there's going to be a prize or a reward at the end. So let's go figure it out." And they get there and they find the
just
Malice,
total chaos. Everything is
chaos. And dead bodies and whatnot, and so they hit a couple people, and then all of a sudden they hit Thor, and his eye opens, his good eye. Yeah. And so they start freaking out. Eventually they bring him in, and this is the best dialogue, and I don't have it in front of me, but I just remember loving the dialogue that happens when Thor comes in, because he's trying to be cool guy Thor, right?
Yeah. And
Peter Quill is very intimidated by him.
He starts talking all deep, and he's like, and the little raccoon, he's like, "That's not your voice." And he's like, "Yes, it is. I talk like this all the time," or some shit.
Yeah,
like
Thor is unconscious at this point, and so Gamora is like ogling over like his
and all
that kind of stuff, and his muscles, and so Peter Quill immediately starts getting very jealous of that, and so he starts talking like this, and he's like this. So I enjoyed that interaction a lot, because I thought it was just it was hilarious. Like, it was hilarious how immediately Thor just asserted dominance. It was like, "Hey, Rabbit, let's go talk about this." And he keeps calling Rocket a rabbit, which is also hilarious. Yeah, he talks to the Tree Man, and he's just not being a real team player, but he has this very strict agenda where he has to go off and make this weapon. And Rocket, of course, loves weapons, and he's like, "I'm going to go with this guy and see what happens." So they kind of split ways, but very funny. It's very funny.
It was comical. Everybody in the theater that I was at was laughing at that, so it was very funny. So
let's see. So at that point, I'm trying to think how Peter Quill, they all go to nowhere, which is the old Equestrial's head, or whatever, how the terminology that you say, but it's basically like a giant's head that was converted to a planet. You saw it in Guardians 1. And they go back there and try and figure out what it is. They find the Collector, who is really, this warped reality from Thanos. And Gamora tries to kill Thanos, and then they essentially, figure out they can't. Thanos takes Gamora and turns Drax into ribbons, and turns Mantis into, turns Drax into cubes.
Gamora thought she killed Thanos.
Well, that was the warped reality where she thought she killed Thanos.
Right.
Thanos ends up,
she envisioned herself. I think, if I remember correctly, though, there was a little more intimacy than that, though, because it was tough for her to do that. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't there like a clip about her being a kid first? I can't remember.
Yeah, there was.
There was a backstory told about Gamora, and how she was loved by Thanos, and the whole like massacre of half of her people and things of that nature. So
Yep.
fast forwarding that, I know we're trying to get through this as fast as possible, but that's part of the main storyline is
No, you 100% right. Yeah, because that sets up Thanos' whole plan.
the
Is
whole
what that is.
plan. Yeah, this whole movie. I mean, let's go real forward. This whole movie is actually about Thanos and what he wants to accomplish. The Avengers in this point or at this point are trying to save their world, whilst Thanos in his mind is trying to save all of humanity by destroying half of it. But to Gamora's point and what she was trying to do and what Donnie was just describing for the false reality, she really at that point thought she had killed Thanos, which in her mind was her father. So you see her in tears, and then you see Thanos just disappear and come actually into reality. And I think he says something to the effect of like, "I didn't think I had that you had it in you," or it was something like, "You disappoint me, child," or something like that. If I can remember correctly. So there was a big play on what Donnie was just talking about, because that sets up the whole rest of the movie and different reactions from certain members of the galaxy or Guardians of the Galaxy Force and all of that stuff. So that's a big pivotal point there, Donnie.
You're totally right, and like you actually, this is why I'm glad that we are doing this together, because there are several plot points in there. There's actually one other one that we just skipped over completely, but yes, that was an emotional moment for Gamora, because she was actually sitting there thinking like, oh, this is, I hate this man, but he's still my father, right? Like imagine like a pissed off girl and her stepdad or whatever. Like she hated him for all the stuff that he did and the torture and the cruelty that he portrayed, but at the same time, she felt bad about doing it. So what that takes is that, again, then taking it 10 minutes before that point in the movie, Gamora is sitting there talking to Nebula, which they were able to recover or rekindle. And she was like, listen, I know, and it wasn't Nebula, but it was Peter, I believe, because she's like, I know something that Thanos doesn't want me to know. And if he knew this, he would kill me. So if he grabs me when we go to nowhere or wherever they go, please kill me first. And he reluctantly agreed to it as her lover and her, or, someone that cares about her. And so that's a huge plot point too, right?
Oh, but then, because we now know what that was.
Now we know what it is, but we didn't know that at the time. So in the movie, you get to that point where she's trying to kill Thanos. And I really thought Thanos not died, but I was like, oh man, did he get injured? And like, I thought he'd be resurrected, but no, it's all just a false reality. So then he's now got Gamora by the neck, and she says, Peter, kill me. And Thanos says, go ahead, kill her. And so he really just has some struggle, can't do it. And then all of a sudden when he does pull the trigger, again, Thanos manipulates reality and bubbles come out, right?
Yeah.
And it's just bubbles. Which can you imagine if somebody made you shoot someone you love?
No.
And when you pulled the trigger, it was blanks or it was bubbles. Like, do you know the emotional toll that would take on you? Like mentally?
What a crux.
How detrimental that really would be to you, not only in the fact of whatever scenario in, like maybe the fate of the galaxy, but just how detrimental that would be. And it's that act alone would just be brutal. And moving forward, they don't really touch on that, I guess, because like Peter Quill never has he does have an emotional reaction. Obviously, he ruins a significant plot point that could have led to the end, possibly. We'll get into that in a minute, but I mean, that is substantial that you literally pull the trigger on someone you love. That's huge to me. And I think that's one point of the plot that doesn't necessarily, play out like it should. I think. I don't know.
No, I think you're absolutely right. There was that point, and then I don't know if we're going to fast forward this far into it, but then there's the other point where he ends up going completely ape about.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, I don't want to go too far.
And we don't. And at this point, we don't have to dissect.
Give me 2 seconds.
All right, you got it.
All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Sometimes she likes to be a night owl like her father. So
Yeah, I heard she does not sleep early and not go to sleep early.
never. It's actually me that helps her fall asleep. I am her dream catcher, if you will. So
It could be a dream catcher.
all right. So I'm ready to go back to it. Where were we?
That's on you.
We were gonna fast forward. We were talking about how pivotal his actions were by shooting her Gamora, but then the
Correct.
bubble's coming out versus at the end, which you told me to we'll talk about. Got it. So
Got
we're
it.
kind of moving forward.
Yes, we are. We're definitely moving forward. All right. So yeah, so it's a pretty substantial scene to the plot of the movie and the subsequent micro plots or mini plots that kind of like come out of that. So all right, so we're past that now. So we're out of there, and that's kind of weird because like Thanos just leaves and Peter's just there. It's so trying to think exactly. I don't remember, but all right. So anyway, so we are now out of nowhere, and then Peter now and team resurrected back from cubed and ribbon form actually decide to go to Earth. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're heading back to Earth, but they actually don't. No, they don't go to Earth. They go to Titan. Don't they go to Titan to actually meet Thanos when he gets there? The Guardians crew.
First,
Because meanwhile,
you're talking about Peter Parker and Iron Man?
nope, I'm talking about Peter Quill. Leaves, so they're at nowhere right now.
Quill, yeah.
Yeah, so Quill, I believe, leaves from nowhere and heads to Titan to go meet Thanos.
Yeah.
There might be something they were missing. Yeah, there might be something.
Because they never end up on Earth or
They don't
anything
go
like
on
that.
Earth,
So
yeah.
I'm pretty sure they head straight to Titan.
So I believe they do. So they head straight to Titan. Meanwhile, essentially the battle in New York City is wrapping up. Iron Man, well, not even Iron Man at this point, but Peter Parker snatches a ride on the Q ship, leaves from New York City, and heads towards an undisclosed location. At the same time, he's talking to Tony Stark because Peter Parker is in the regular the regular Spider-Man suit at this point, and then actually is saying, I don't know what's going on. I should have just gone to science class or whatever he says. And then Iron Man catches up, gets a booster between his feet with his new nano suit, which, by the way, do you want to talk on the nano suit? Because the nano suit is freaking sick. So sick.
Yeah.
Again, we'll get into it. But the nano suit, there's a huge plot point of the nano suit that I love that I think goes a little bit unnoticed, but we'll get to that a little bit later when we talk about the Battle of Titan. So Peter is now in his regular suit, losing oxygen on the Q ship. Tony then calls out to the what? Q-17, what did you say? A-17?
A-17, which is a throwback, and I'm no comic book reader, but it's a throwback to when, I guess in number 17, Spider-Man dies in an alternate universe against Thanos or something to that effect. So
well, see,
it was a callback to that.
Well, I also heard there was a different callback, which was basically like something with the originality of his suit. I want to see with this now.
Could be either or. Maybe that's left up to fan interpretation. They just blended it together.
I don't know. All I know is that it's called the Iron Spider. that's all I know.
Well, even still, it was really cool to see Spider-Man in that suit. I felt like moving forward, they should just make all Spider-Man movies in that suit. I know that's not traditional, of course, but I felt like that was kind of a neat thing to kind of throw into the movie. I didn't know what it meant at the time, to be honest with you. Like what I just said was more about research after the fact because I didn't want to know any spoilers about this movie. But yeah, I mean, I kind of really liked the suit, and I kind of felt like Iron Man or his main character Stark there. Sorry, not Sparks. Really felt compassion for Spider-Man at the same time. He was a kid. He kind of looked after him. He felt like he was almost like his responsibility to make sure that he was okay. And the fact that he made a suit for him for some, random situation, I thought was really kind of cool to tie back in on the back end. So that's how I felt about that.
Yeah, it absolutely was cool. And like the fact that they literally used like his old suit, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing good here. I'm kind of,
Gonna fall off
I'm
this ship here.
Mr. Stark. I'm losing oxygen here, sir.
Why
I'm
did I
losing
spend all
oxygen,
night
Mr.
studying for my Q&A when I could have just been?
I could have just gone to science class, Mr. Stark.
He is such a young Peter Parker too, man. Like he's not even like out of high school or anything. It's just really funny.
Like I get it. Well, he's supposed to be in high school, so like he actually looks like it. I totally understand that, but there is a significance there that I'm not able to find out yet. But one of the coolest things about that suit is the damn Spidey legs. So like, and
Yeah.
again, we're fast forwarding because there's a scene where they actually kick Ebony Maw out. Props to those who suggested he might die in our Avengers Infinity War death pool, which there were several that did think he was going to die, but the legs just kind of popped out at the last minute, and they kept him from flying into space, and he was holding on to somebody. I don't remember at the time. It must have been, there was only Strange and Banner. No, it wasn't Banner. It was just Strange and Iron Man. Anyways, he was up there in the Q ship flying into unknown space, and he was flying out the window, and he actually, or out the hole in the wall, and actually the legs came and kind of saved him. So that was really cool. Very cool tech. It's very cool.
Oh wait, that's right.
Aids
So-
that kind of protected him a little bit.
Listeners, you have to forgive me. I did have 2 unholies and 2 porters during this filming.
Oh, jeez.
During watching this film. When I say 2 unholies, I mean 1 24-ounce tall boy. Anyway, that's right. Spider-Man did catch himself as they were flying out of the spaceship after Doctor Strange was held with the needle points from
There you go.
Ebony Maw. Yes. Okay. It's all coming back now. Okay. Yeah, that was a great scene. Holy
That was
shit.
really cool. Yeah, that was really
cool.
cool.
This whole movie, obviously we've been talking now for a couple of minutes. This whole movie moves as fast as we're talking. Like it's nonstop
Faster,
action.
if you will, because we're talking
Well-
quite slow and forgetting a lot of things.
But it's all coming up as we speak, and Donnie's gonna have a hell of a time editing. I don't envy you. But just that fact, like there's just constant action. There's scene after scene after scene. It starts with Loki being killed, and then it goes to the city of New York, and the fight scene on the street, to in the air and outer space and the galaxy. It's just all over the place, happens so fast but so seamlessly at the same time. It's just freaking fantastic. I need to go watch this movie again, to be honest with you. Like that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I need to watch it again too. But we're gonna move on here because we're running out of time.
Yes, we are.
So we're gonna fast forward. So fast forward now. There's a bunch of plot details that we're missing, but essentially, Strange, Iron Man, and Peter Parker are heading towards Titan, which is the moon around Jupiter, which apparently has some sort of gravitational whatever, or there's oxygen there because they keep taking their damn masks off, and they shouldn't be. And that really irked me and brought me out of the movie because I'm like, how the hell can they bleed? But you know what? How can you have wizardry powers or whatever? It's fine. So anyways, they're on Titan now, and then they're joined by the Guardians there a little bit later, which consists of Peter Quill, Drax, and not Groot, but Mantis. Mantis is there. So you have on Titan, Mantis, Drax, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Strange.
That's right, because Groot didn't. Where did Groot go?
Well, Groot went with Rocket and Thor to go build a new weapon, which is happening. That's what's happening right now.
That's what we're missing.
When they're on the way to Titan,
that's
right?
Major.
When they're on their way to Titan, they're Thor and them are meeting with a giant Peter Dinklage, who was awesome,
so
except for the voice. I didn't love the voice he played, but the voice he made was weird. But the character I liked, and the predicament of that Thanos came there and destroyed the facility or killed the Star because he didn't want anybody else having a weapon as powerful as the Gauntlet. That was pretty cool. But again, that's kind of that's just a vice. We can kind of fly past that.
I mean, you can't really, because that's a big thing. I mean, Thor like that's one of the most iconic scenes in the entire film, where Thor literally starts a star by himself and has the power of the star flowing through his body to get to where it needs to go for Peter Dinklage character to, create Thor's new weapon. I mean, that's pretty pivotal in this entire film too, I think. But
Well, yeah.
that was my summation of that.
No, I mean it is, but that's the summary I'm talking about. Okay, hold on.
Are you okay? Somebody's dying. Oh, let it out. Let it out.
Sorry. I'm still not there. Just fast forward to Black Panther. Okay. So yes, Thor's new weapon is pretty substantial. I think it's very good for the story. It helps like find out what group where his participation is, because he does actually like chop off his own arm to make the axe. It's like a beer burp. I had like a beer burp.
Yeah, that's terrible. And scene.
And scene. Okay, yes, that is a very substantial point. I'm not gonna lie, that he has to build his new hammer. I just feel like, again, we can fast forward to later, but his hammer doesn't do a ton of impact to the story. So the whole scene there is kind of like the
not now, but I bet in Avengers 4 it will.
Absolutely. I think every Thor interaction leading to the end of Thor, it will play an impact. I just think this particular scene is like, okay, that's, you know what it is? It's okay. So this harkens back to, we're big Star Wars fans, right? You and I, well, the whole group. I listened to a podcast that it's the Star Wars story, and it explains the story of Star Wars, which one of the things that they drove home very early on was that George Lucas was insanely good at world building. And by the first time you see Thor and you see Mjolnir, the hammer, his first hammer, all you know about it is that it was forged in the heart of a dying star, right? So imagine 500 million people thinking what that might look like, right? So now in Avengers 4, you've actually then taken it back to say, well, this is actually what the heart of a dying star looks like and how you build a weapon in the heart of a dying star. So this is world building at its best, with a seed planted in the first Thor introduction. And now, I don't know, 10 movies, 18 movies, or 16 movies, 12 movies later, I don't know when exactly it was. But now you actually see a weapon being crafted in the heart of a dying star. And you see the sacrifice or the threat of sacrifice that is put in place to build said weapon. That is world building, my friend, at its best, at its very finest. But if you think about it, you never really, like when he first said, because you heard that, his first hammer, it was forged in the heart of a dying star. Okay, great. What did you think of when you first heard that?
What the fuck is he talking about?
But did it break the story? Did you think, oh no, like is a metal contraption that person has to hold by their hands like this and then get a sun ray?
No, you don't think that.
But isn't that a degree of world building that changes your perception of the original Mjolnir?
Yeah, right there.
Well, I'm just
yeah.
Doesn't it change your perception of his first weapon, thinking that, wow, that's really how intense it was to make? I understand why this hammer is so important, right?
Yeah.
And subsequent hammer, why it is so important.
Yeah.
It does this world building piece that is like immeasurable, which I like when I put that together, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, this is insanity. How intense that just made everything else that we know about Thor. So, so there's that.
Well, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm captivated because as I'm playing it back in my head, I'm like, wow, that's huge.
It's a game changer.
well, it's a world changer. Yeah, it's like, and I'm putting it together like what you just said. Uh, you know, a world builder and things like that. It's absolutely mind boggling from beginning to end how seamless and everything. I mean, there's like no loose gaps at all between storytelling. From the beginning to the end, there was a plan, and they just broke it off into all these different characters that we've gotten to know and love, but then put them all in one movie and just went full throttle.
Yeah,
Brought it all home. I think that's awesome.
it was it's very good. We have to do a bit of fast forwarding on this. But yeah, no, that is a good scene. So so basically, okay, we can fast forward a little bit. There's a lot of setting up for what happens at Wakanda, right? Everyone that's watching this, essentially, there's two things. There's Thanos and Gamora when they discover the Soul Stone, because that was the only unknown Soul Stone or stone that there was. But go ahead. Did you have something else?
I have not seen Black Panther yet.
Okay, well, we won't spoil Black Panther, but if you've seen Infinity War, then you have a. I told you had to watch that one.
I know. I couldn't watch it.
Well,
sorry.
That's okay. But there was a lot of technology that was shown there that you probably were very confused about. But that's what would happen if you didn't know.
Well, no, I mean, I just went with it. To be honest with you, the whole movie, I just went with it. Like, they didn't have to explain anything really. That was, but I mean, I will watch Black Panther. I just haven't seen it. So,
all right. So we fast forward to Wakanda. There's obviously an impeding army, and they're trying to remove the gem from Vision's head, which is fine. We get that. So Vision's head trying to be removed. It's very complicated, but there's also an army of outriders that are coming to attack Wakanda to break down the defenses to actually infiltrate and capture or get that gem from Vision's head. So there's a whole bunch of context here. Some things that we're glossing over is the Hulkbuster, which is awesome. And again, you see that half Bruce Banner, half Hulk face, which is so iconic to the memory and the history of the Hulk. But it's really awesome. So you see all that part. At the same time, as that battle starts, the Thanos piece of it is that they're going to get the Soul Gem. You see Red Skull again. You see the emotional turmoil now. Instead of Gamora killing Thanos, you see Thanos having to sacrifice his daughter to get the Soul Stone. So again, extremely emotional. I don't think we have to go into too much detail on that, besides the fact that you see a legacy character like Red Skull come in, and then Thanos has to make the sacrifice for the only one person he loves, which happens to be Gamora. Pretty emotional scene there. And then after that, essentially, it's just brawl time. Wakanda's fighting, going crazy against the folks there. Thor gets his Stormbreaker finished. He almost gets, evaporated by a sun. And then it just gets into a battle on Titan as well. So a lot of cool stuff with all of these scenes here. But I think we just need to kind of. Do you tell me if you find anything more relevant we need to talk to between now and Thanos' snap? Because there's only a few things there.
No, because there's a bunch of stuff like you said that just lead up to it, and then there are a bunch of things that we could talk about at a later date as we start to speculate about what episode 2, well, Avengers 4 episode 2 for this is going to hold, whether it be from Nebula to Vision in white and everything else, all those different things that are going to come up, as well as, I mean, are we throwing out what we think yet is going to happen in episode 4, like where we think everybody that disappeared to is? Are we going to throw that out now, or are we going to?
Well, we can. So let's just fast forward to that. There's a couple more things. Essentially,
so fast forward. There's a snap, and everybody that we know of, that we love, disappears except for a handful of people. Spider-Man. No, Spider-Man's gone. But Iron Man, what?
Mr. Stark.
Yeah, poor guy. He's like, help me.
Yeah, there's a little bit more context to that. So there's battles going on in Wakanda and Titan And both are awesome. And like I loved it because they almost got the gauntlet off of Thanos, and then Peter Quill realizes that Thanos killed Gamora, and he freaks out and ruins the whole plan. But at the same time, and the one thing that was really crucial to that is that Doctor Strange is sitting there running through 14,662 calculations of how this battle or this series of battles could end. And of all of them, they fail except for one. So as that progresses, there's another line of dialogue. Once Thanos snaps his fingers, which he's no longer on Titan now, he's basically left all the Avengers that were on Titan, and he went back to Wakanda to finish the battle. He gets attacked by Thor, and he says to Thor, "You should have hit me in the head." At that point, he snaps his fingers, meaning that if he would have hit him in the head, he would have died instantly, but he did not with his new hammer. And he actually was able to accomplish his goal, which was the complete control of reality with all of the Infinity Gems in the gauntlet, ready to be completely powerful. Snaps his fingers, and what that does is that immediately kills off half of the universe population, not just Earth, not just humans, half of the population in the universe, so that everybody could have more resources, as explained, as Gamora was a child being taken away by Thanos. The one thing that's kind of interesting at that point, as characters start to fade away, which Rhodey does fade away. I remember Rhodey fades away because I believe it was somebody, I think it was Falcon or Captain America was looking for him, and by the time he found him, he was faded away. So he definitely does fade away. But the crazy part about this, besides Mr. Stark and Spider-Man fading away as a whiny little bitch, Strange looks at Iron Man and says, "This is the only way."
Yeah.
And so that one line there is what I think will tie us directly into number 4. Strange saying that I've seen 14 million trials and tribulations of how this could play out, and this is the only way. Therefore, Peter Quill ruining the removal of the gauntlet from Thanos and fucking all that up was literally the only way for it to happen. So if they would have been successful in removing the gauntlet, it still wouldn't have went well for them. The only way for it to go well is for them to all get evaporated. And then fast forward to the post-credit scene, which, did you stay for that?
Well, I did, and I won't ruin it, but...
Well, this is full spoilers. We are now able to ruin it.
Well, that's true. But I love the end when Samuel L. Jackson is about to say, "Mother," and he just gets cut right, like just evaporates. It's hilarious.
He dissipates and he drops to 1990s looking pager who happens to call Captain Marvel. Who's a lady, Brie Larson. It's going to be Captain Marvel in this. So very interesting.
Yes, definitely something there. But I want to go back to Samuel L. Jackson, and I think it's the only part that he's actually never actually fully been able to say "motherfucker." Just throwing that out there. It got cut halfway through, but it was kind of weird because we know that everything was happening when they were doing all the fighting and protecting and everything, but the rest of the world, as everybody, was disappearing, if you will, was going to mayhem, car accidents, helicopters coming out of the sky, airplanes falling, like all this stuff, all these people just disappearing and nobody knowing what's really going on. Even what was the agent he was with? The lady,
Hall, I think her name is Hall.
Yeah, she disappeared too. So it was very weird. Yeah, it was very weird as to what was going on, but that's because of the snap, if you will. So
yep. So all very good stuff. And there was a lot of, again, pop culture references. Alien was in there, Sherlock Holmes, 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon, Beam Me Up, Scotty. We missed a bunch of stuff that was in there.
Talk about Kevin Bacon. There was a Tremors. Oh, no. I take that back. Just cut that part out. That was something else I saw before the movie. Sorry.
There's a new Tremors movie coming out, but it's on Netflix, I believe.
No, they cut it.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Forget I just said anything. Yeah. Sorry, there was a tie in there, but
that's okay. There are a million more callbacks that we missed But this was a good recollection of what I could remember from the movie, what you could remember from the movie, and we kind of supplemented there just to make some call out, some action, and some conversation about these pieces. If you have any more information or any more insight on this, hopefully you have already seen the movie and you can contribute as well. We encourage you to visit us on Facebook. It's a Craft Brews and Geek News Facebook group. We've plugged it about 1,000 times tonight. It is very fun. We talk about a lot of stuff, both beer related and movie related. Marvel, Star Wars, space, Mars travel, whatever it may be. We love to talk about it on there. Ryan, if you have anything else to contribute to this Marvel conversation before we wrap it up, what do you think?
Well, I was going to ask you in 30 seconds or less, what do you think is going to happen in the next film? Do they come back? Do some of them come back? Obviously, Gamora can't come back. Obviously, Loki can't come back. What are your thoughts and how?
So at the end of this movie, the gauntlet was fried, essentially. It looked fried from Thor's connection. It looked very much fried. But you did see Thanos wake up. His armor was off. You couldn't see his hand with the gauntlet. I'm guessing the gauntlet wasn't there. But you could see a lot of telling things, as in, it was still kind of a piece in the play there. And he woke up to a sunrise as he wanted to. What I envision for this is that, and if you think about it, Thanos isn't necessarily a bad guy. He is a bad guy, but he was trying to equalize the galaxy or the universe for the better well-being of the entirety of the universe. He tried to do it on his home planet, and they poo-pooed him, and then everybody died, right? But that doesn't make him a bad guy, because he's like, listen, if we can do this across the universe, it will make those still alive more appreciative, more beneficial, more prosperous, and survive in a never expanding universe. My only question is that if you have the ultimate capability to change all this stuff, why not double the size of the universe instead of cut the amount of population in half, right? Like, why don't they just do it that way? He could have just been like, well, now the universe is twice as big. Everything in the universe is twice as bigger. So like, why wouldn't he do a solution like that? So what I think is that
that's actually there will be really intelligent.
Well, I can't claim honesty. I can't claim that's my own thought. I mean, that's just a culmination of speculation from other people. But essentially what I'm saying is, in the next one, why couldn't they find Thanos and convince him that, hey, this may not have been the right way to do things, and either capture the gauntlet to change things, or use Captain Marvel to adapt her powers in some way to either harness or manipulate what had happened to reverse what had happened. But if that's all in play, then they could also bring back Loki. They could bring back Gamora. They could reverse the entire battle. I mean, the powers that are contained in that gauntlet, coupled with Captain Marvel, are, from my understanding, are immense and just absolutely ununderstandable unless you're a diehard comic book fan. So I really think it's going to be something very different from any speculation that we are all thinking, much like a lot of these Marvel and Star Wars movies are doing, where it's what? Like, I just didn't expect that to happen. But I don't know if they collaborate with him or if they just find a way to reverse it. But my understanding or my thought process is they will collaborate, and he'll have an unceremonious death, and they can start to rebuild. But there's a bigger bad that comes in after Thanos. That's what I think.
So I'm going to just try to...
That was way longer than 30 seconds.
No, yeah, it was great, actually. It was a great breakdown. And whatever I'm about to say is not only my thought. It's also after talking to a few people and getting their feedback and what they think is going to happen. But, Donnie, you brought up a great point. The glove, or the gauntlet was basically fried. The stones weren't, but the gauntlet was, right? So in conversation with somebody today, right before I came on this cast, I was telling them what my thoughts were, like, oh, it's an alternate universe, blah, blah, blah. They shared with me one little thing that could actually be true, in that it makes sense if you think about it. Everybody that disappeared is in the Soul Stone. And right. I don't know if that's true.
Which could be Gamora too. If they can destroy one stone, which they did from Vision's head, they can destroy other stones. And if that is happening, when that's destroyed, do all those things come back to life?
Am I not also mistaken? Is the Soul Stone green?
No, I think it's yellow.
Oh, fuck. Never mind.
I think
Gamora
the time stone was green. But what was your green recollection?
Gamora was green. Sorry.
Nope.
No, it's not her. But still, they could be in the Soul Stone, if that makes sense.
I mean, she was green, but the Soul Stone was not green. It was yellow.
That's fine. But if you think about the gauntlet and how it was like, decimated, if you will, it could have been that all the souls that were taken, half of the entire universe could have been too much power for the gauntlet to control.
Well, the thing is,
and maybe the Soul Stone will crack in the next episode.
I think that's absolutely a possibility in terms of speculation. But if you remember the flow of the movie, Thor strikes him in the chest, the lightning bolts happen, and he still snaps his finger. So he snapped his finger after the gauntlet was torched. And I could be wrong on that as well. Again, I saw that one time.
I thought it happened because of the snap. That's what I must have blinked at the wrong second.
Well, maybe, but why would it have? And that could have been because Thor hit him with a hammer, and he had the dying scene where he was like, "Oh, everything's awful." And you're right. I think you're right because he snapped, and that's
the power that it put out.
That's when the power went out, right? So I think you're right. I think it fried it when he snapped. But how badly did it fry? Are they broken? Are they ruptured? Are they cracked? Are they ready to explode? These are all questions we will have to explore at a later date.
2019 is going to be a great year because Avengers 4 and also Game of Thrones.
And Star Wars.
And Star Wars. Yes, of course.
Star Wars episode 19.
I was throwing Game of Thrones out there, but
nah, that'd be good too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my man, this was a long episode, but a very much overdue episode and a good episode. So I mentioned that this is going to come out tomorrow. It probably will not come out tomorrow. It'll probably come out tomorrow evening. So this will come out the evening of the 16th, which will be about 8-9 hours after the Pico Brew announcement. So I apologize that you guys are not getting the first crack at this news. But in all reality, it is a light night tonight, and we have talked about a lot of information. So
we have.
So Ryan, as we always tend to conclude, where can the good people find you if they want to catch up with you or ask you specific questions on your input?
Yeah, definitely. Instagram and Twitter at BrewedBoy813, or you can also send us a message at our Facebook page on the Craft Brews and Geek News podcast page. So come on at us.
Yep, fantastic. And we do welcome any conversation, insights, speculation, or spoilers that you think, well, not spoilers, but let's be real. At this point, if you haven't heard the episode, we'll be very generous when we say that this is a spoiler-heavy episode, but please do let us know. Ryan and I have a busy agenda this week as well. I believe tomorrow we'll be going to the opening night.
Thursday.
Okay, so it'll be a preview night of the Deadpool 2 movie that's coming out, and then we have Solo coming out after that, so we'll have insight on both those movies. But please do join along and contribute. If you have speculation on those, we'll do spoilers or at least reviews to them, maybe non or both non and spoiler included as we hit a different date here. But Ryan, please take us home as we mention on the end of every podcast here.
Yeah, definitely. Join us on the Craft Brews and Geek News podcast Facebook page. No, that's not.
I meant the term. I forgot to also say the fact that you can find me at Brewmasters Club.
No, let's do this again. Do this again.
Okay. So, guys, you can always find me at Brewmasters Club on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Please, we put all of these episodes out on YouTube as well. So check us out there. Subscribe to the channel if you prefer to watch it rather than listen to it. We are on there. But Ryan, as we close every podcast episode, please take us home.
Be careful when you snap your fingers because you might destroy half the universe.
There we go. You've heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. You'll destroy half the universe. Do not snap your fingers. That was a bad snap. Better snap.
Yeah,
right.
That was terrible.
Bye, everybody.
All right.